Complete insight map. The Let Them Theory. Mel Robbins. PHAs 1. The Illusion of Control. Context. Mel Robbins, a former criminal defense attorney turned motivational speaker with 28 million followers, opens with a confession. Despite building a career teaching people to take action, she had spent decades trapped in the compulsive, neurologically destructive habit of trying to control other people. Through her own stories and millions of podcast listeners, she exposes the hidden addiction that silently ruins relationships, careers, and millions relationships, careers, and mental health. Insight 1.1. You are addicted to controlling others. Trigger. Robbins catalogs a single ordinary Tuesday, correcting her daughter's attitude at breakfast, rewriting a colleague's email, rehearsing a speech to convince her husband to plan date nights, curating a text to a friend. Every interaction was a micro-negotiation designed to produce a specific emotional response in someone else. She realizes she has spent her entire adult life managing other people's perceptions and calling it caring. Realization. Most people are unconsciously addicted to controlling others. When you attempt to control someone and appear to succeed, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, reinforcing the behavior. But compliance is not change. Research from Yale's Stress Center shows that when we perceive a loss of control, the amygdala goes into overdrive, flooding the system with cortisol. You are not just emotionally drained by trying to control others, you are physiologically damaging yourself. Intermediate conclusion. The addiction to control is universal because it is neurological, not moral. If a globally recognized personal development expert can be blind to this pattern for decades, no one is immune. You have been wasting your one precious life trying to control things that were never yours to control. Insight 1-2. Small stressors are not small. The cumulative cortisol effect. Trigger. Slow Wi-Fi. A passive-aggressive Slack message. Dishes in the sink. A driver cutting her off. An unanswered text. A child rolling their eyes. A slow cashier at the garden center. Each seems trivial, but by 2 p.m., Robbins is irritable, exhausted, and snapping at people she loves, not because of any single event, but because of the accumulated weight of dozens of tiny, unresolvable frustrations. Realization. Each microstressor activates the amygdala, triggering the sympathetic nervous system to release adrenaline and cortisol. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, is suppressed during this cascade. Research suggests 7 in 10 adults experience near constant stress from policing other people's choices. You are not tired because your life is hard. You are tired because your brain is in a permanent low-grade state of emergency. Intermediate conclusion. You are not managing your life. You are waging a neurological war against reality, and reality always wins. It's not the big things that break you. It's the 1,000 tiny things you refuse to let go of. Insight 1.3. The 2 words that change everything. Trigger. Her daughter Sawyer, 24, called in tears. A close friend had organized a group trip and deliberately excluded her. Sawyer spiraled. What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? Robbins felt the familiar pull to coach, strategize, fix. But for the first time, she recognized the pattern. Instead of her usual tactical briefing, she said 2 words, let them. The silence lasted a long time. Then Sawyer said, you're right. Realization. When you say, let them, you acknowledge a fundamental truth your amygdala does not want you to accept. Their behavior is not yours to manage. The phrase works neurologically. It engages the prefrontal cortex, which interrupts the amygdala's threat alarm, shifting the brain from reactive mode to responsive mode. Research shows mindfulness techniques like this reduce cortisol levels by approximately 32%. Intermediate conclusion. Let them is not resignation. It is the conscious recognition of reality and the beginning of reclaiming power over the only thing you can actually control, yourself. Let them. Those 2 words will set you free. PHAs 2. The second half. Let me context. Robbins reveals that let them alone is incomplete and dangerous. Thousands of listeners applied it incorrectly and became passive doormats. The real transformation happens when release is paired with responsibility. Insight 2.1, let them without let me, is passive victimhood. Trigger. After the original podcast went viral, 15 million people in weeks, messages flooded in from misapplications. A woman let her husband speak disrespectfully for months. A man let his boss pile on work without boundaries. They had used let them as an excuse to avoid difficult conversations and necessary boundaries. Realization. Without let me, you create passive victimhood. Let me is the action step that transforms release into agency. Let them not invite me. Let me make plans with the people who value me. Let them deny my promotion. Let me explore better opportunities. One without the other is either tyranny or victimhood. Both halves are non-negotiable. Intermediate conclusion. The complete formula is always let them plus let me. Release control of others, then take full responsibility for your own next move. Let me is where you stop being a spectator in your own life and become the author of it. Insight 2.2. You are the only person you can save. Trigger. At 41, Robbins was $800,000 in debt. Restaurant failed. Legal career over. Marriage crumbling. She was so paralyzed by anxiety she couldn't get out of bed. A crisis that would eventually produce the 5-second rule. But before that breakthrough came months of waiting for someone to rescue her. Nobody came. Realization, studies on locus of control consistently show that people who believe outcomes are determined by their own actions score higher on resilience, productivity, career success, and even physical health. The let me principle is radical personal responsibility, reframed not as a burden but as the ultimate source of freedom. Intermediate conclusion. Every moment of waiting for others to change is a moment of your own life unlived. No one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and you can. PHACE 3, Fear, Judgment, and the Opinion Trap Context. Robbins addresses the most paralyzing force in modern life, the fear of other people's opinions, and demonstrates through neuroscience why managing others' perceptions is not just futile, but neurologically impossible. Insight 3.1, You cannot control what others think. Trigger, Robbins delayed posting content online for 2 full years because she was terrified of criticism. She wrote and deleted hundreds of Instagram captions, recorded and erased dozens of videos. Meanwhile, people with half her experience posted freely and built massive audiences while she sat paralyzed, trying to control the reactions of strangers. Realization. Each person's perception is filtered through their unique combination of past experiences, biases, mood, insecurities, and projections. 2 people can read the same post and have opposite reactions based entirely on what they brought to the encounter. Research on the psychological immune system shows that people's opinions are unstable, constantly shifting, and largely determined by factors that have nothing to do with you. Intermediate conclusion. When you grant people the freedom to think whatever they want, including negative things, the paralysis lifts. Their opinions are about them. Your life is about you. Let them judge you. Let them misunderstand you. You were not put on this earth to live in their minds. Insight 3.2 People-pleasing is a control strategy, disguised as kindness. Trigger. Robbins traces the pattern back to childhood conditioning. The child who learned that love was conditional on compliance, that performing for approval was safer than being authentic. She describes herself as a recovering people-pleaser who spent decades disguising her need for control as generosity. Realization. When you please others, you are engineering their emotional response. If I do this for them, they will think I am good. They will not leave. This requires constant monitoring of others' emotional states and constant performance of a version of yourself that does not exist. You are not being kind. You are running a covert influence operation on everyone in your life, and the cost is your own identity. Intermediate conclusion. True kindness comes from choice, not compulsion. When you stop people-pleasing, you become genuinely generous for the first time, giving freely rather than transactionally. If you attach your sense of worth to outcomes, you will live life at the mercy of other people. PHACE 4, Emotions, Reactions, and the 90-Second Rule Context. Drawing on neuroscientist Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor's research in dialectical behavior therapy, Robbins demonstrates that most emotional suffering is caused not by the triggering event, but by our resistance to the emotion it produces. Insight 4.1, Adult tantrums are not your problem to solve. Trigger. A partner slamming doors, a coworker's furious email, a parent guilt-tripping, I guess you're too busy for your own mother, a friend's silent treatment. In each case, the instinct is immediate: manage their emotional state. Robbins observes that many adults function with the emotional maturity of an 8-year-old, using tantrums to manipulate others into compliance. Realization, attempting to manage others' emotional reactions accomplishes 3 destructive things. 1. Trains them that tantrums work. 2. Depletes your emotional reserves. 3. Prevents them from developing their own regulation skills. You can witness someone's pain with genuine compassion without taking responsibility for resolving it. Intermediate conclusion. Compassion and responsibility are not the same thing. Witnessing is not managing. Empathy is not servitude. Insight 4.2 Every emotion peaks in 90 seconds. Trigger. Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor's research found that the physiological lifespan of an emotion, the actual chemical cascade, lasts approximately 90 seconds. Everything after that is sustained by your own thinking, replaying, catastrophizing, rehearsing arguments. Realization, hard decisions, canceling a wedding, leaving a job, setting a boundary, create pain that peaks within 90 seconds. Most prolonged anguish is not the emotion itself, but resistance to the emotion. The emotion is trying to move through you. Your thinking is trapping it inside you. Intermediate conclusion. When facing a difficult, let me moment, expect 90 seconds of intense discomfort. Breathe through the wave. Clarity always follows. You are not afraid of the emotion. You are afraid of the 90 seconds it takes to feel it. Pre-HAs 5. The comparison machine context. Robbins reframes jealousy from a destructive emotion into one of the most powerful navigational tools available to the human psyche, a signal from your unlived desires. Insight 5.1. Two types of comparison. Torture and teacher. Trigger. Robbins catches herself obsessively scrolling a neighbor's Instagram, a woman building a wildly successful online identity as an interior designer. The jealousy was physical, tight chest, clenched jaw, a sick feeling in her stomach. Rather than pushing the feeling away, she examined it. Realization, torture, comparison obsesses over things you cannot change. Genetics, inherited wealth, natural talent. It creates victimhood and despair. Teacher comparison studies things you can develop. Habits, skills, strategies, work ethic. It transforms jealousy into actionable intelligence. The filter is one question. Is this something I can learn or develop? Intermediate conclusion. Jealousy is not your enemy. Unexamined jealousy is. If it is a teacher, reverse engineer the success. If it is torture, release it. Jealousy is an invitation from your future self. Insight 5.2. Jealousy is a doorway, not a wall. Trigger. Robbins realizes her jealousy was not about interior design. She had zero interest in decorating. It was about the desire to build a visible online identity, to be seen, to take a creative risk. The neighbor's Instagram was showing Robbins what she herself was too afraid to pursue. Realization. When you feel jealous, your psyche is cracking open a doorway to your own future, showing you a desire that is alive within you. The jealousy is not about the other person. It is your own unlived ambition, using someone else's life as a mirror. Intermediate conclusion. Every pang of envy contains a data point about what your authentic self is hungry for. Stop suppressing jealousy and start interrogating it. Jealousy is a doorway to your future cracked open, and it's your job to kick it open and walk right through it. PHA 6. Friendships and the Might of Forever context. Robbins dismantles the myth that real friendships last forever, providing the science and emotional framework for understanding why most friendships fade and why this is structural inevitability, not failure. Insight 6.1. Friendships require 3 structural pillars. Trigger. Research shows forming a genuine friendship requires approximately 74 hours of shared time, and proximity triggers oxytocin release, literally bonding people at a neurochemical level. Most people misunderstand this. They believe friendship is about personality compatibility. Realization, friendship requires 3 pillars. Proximity, 74 plus hours together. Timing, compatible life stage. And energy, mutual chemistry and effort. When any pillar shifts, you move cities, kids age out of the same school. Personal growth changes your energy. The friendship naturally fades. Research on synchronized brain activity shows close friends are literally on the same wavelength. When proximity shifts, synchronization degrades. Intermediate conclusion. Most friendships fade because of structural change, not betrayal. Understanding this removes guilt and self-blame. Insight 6.2. Some friendships are seasonal. Trigger. Listeners torture themselves over faded friendships, forced checking in, texts, hollow holiday cards, guilt about unreturned calls. One listener maintained a friendship for 11 years out of pure obligation. Robbins shares the experience that resonated most, being deliberately excluded from a friend group trip. Realization. Some friendships are for a season of life, and when that season ends, the friendship has served its purpose completely. Forcing a seasonal friendship into a permanent one dishonors both people by replacing authentic connection with obligatory performance. Intermediate conclusion. Releasing a friendship that has run its course is respect for the natural rhythm of human connection and for the new relationships that cannot enter until you stop filling space with obligatory ones. Insight 6.3. New connections require going first. Trigger. Adults complain about loneliness but rarely initiate. They wait to be invited, operating from passive availability rather than active invitation. This passivity is another manifestation of the control instinct. Not going first protects you from rejection. Realization. Most adults are exactly as lonely and afraid of rejection as you are. The person who goes first breaks the stalemate for both. Research confirms people almost always respond warmly to genuine, low-pressure invitations. The fear of rejection is dramatically overblown. Intermediate conclusion. Waiting to be chosen is a form of trying to control the outcome. Going first is the let me in action. PHAC 7. The impossibility of changing people context. Through thousands of listener stories about trying to change loved ones, Robbins reveals why pressure-based approaches consistently backfire and introduces a structured alternative that respects human autonomy. Insight 7.1. 3 immutable truths about human change. Trigger. Methods vary. Lectures, ultimatums, emotional appeals, research papers left on kitchen counters, tearful interventions, but pressure backfires virtually always. Robbins connects this to the boomerang effect. People intensify their original behavior specifically because they feel controlled. Realization: 3 truths govern change. 1. People change only when they are ready, not when you are. 2. Humans avoid pain. They resist change until staying the same hurts more than changing. 3. Everyone believes they are the exception. Attempting to override someone's autonomy activates their defenses and makes change less likely. Intermediate conclusion: you cannot want someone's healing more than they want it themselves. The moment your desire exceeds theirs, you have crossed from support into control. You cannot want healing more than they do. Insight 7.2. The ABC loop. Replace pressure with presence. Trigger: Robbins observes a predictable escalation, gentle suggestion, insistent conversation, emotional appeal, ultimatum, resentment, inside disconnection. Each escalation strengthens the other person's resistance. The relationship becomes a battlefield. Realization: replace escalation with the ABC loop. A. Apologize for trying to control and ask genuine open-ended questions. B. Back off and model the behavior you desire. Stop lecturing about exercise and start exercising. C. Celebrate any progress rather than pointing out how far they still have to go. Research confirms people become more willing to transform when fully accepted, not when judged. Intermediate conclusion: modeling is exponentially more powerful than lecturing. People change when they see change working in someone they respect. PIHH, SQing vs. Supporting context. Robbins draws a sharp line between rescuing and supporting, demonstrating that well-intentioned rescue is often the single greatest obstacle to the change it seeks. The hardest chapter. It asks readers to let someone they love experience consequences. Insight 8.1. Rescuing prevents the pain that motivates change. Trigger: parents emptying retirement accounts for addicted children who accumulate new debts within months. Partners calling in sick for alcoholic spouses. Friends loaning money to chronically irresponsible people. In every case, the rescuer believed they were helping. In every case, the rescue was the problem. Realization: when you rescue someone from consequences, you remove the only force powerful enough to motivate transformation, the pain of reality. Rock bottom is not punishment, it is a necessary teacher. Every unconditional dollar, every manufactured excuse is another brick in the wall between them and reality. Intermediate conclusion: intervention without readiness is not love, it is control wearing love's costume. Insight 8.2. Support has conditions, rescue has none. Trigger: Robbins identifies a clear structural difference between the two approaches by examining cases where one led to recovery and the other to endless enabling cycles. Realization: effective support includes conditions. I'll pay for rehab if you commit to completing the program. Rescue has none. Money flows freely, excuses are accepted, boundaries are absent. Robbins introduces silent help, cleaning someone's apartment without being asked, dropping off groceries without a lecture, being present without fixing, which often accomplishes more than dramatic intervention. Intermediate conclusion: love is not the absence of boundaries. Love is the presence of boundaries held with compassion. Tactory, PHA's 9, love, dating, and heartbreak context. Robbins applies the theory to romantic relationships, where the instinct to control is most powerful and most destructive, introducing frameworks for dating with clarity and recovering from heartbreak with structural intervention. Insight 9.1. Confusion is not a question. It is the answer. Trigger: millions stuck in situationships, decoding mixed signals, analyzing text messages, constructing theories about inconsistent behavior. They treat confusion as a puzzle to solve rather than a message to receive. As Maya Angelou observed, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Realization: in relationships, confusion signals disinterest. Behavior always trumps words. A person who wants to be with you acts like it, consistently, clearly, without ambiguity. Mixed signals are not signals. They are answers. You are not my priority. Intermediate conclusion: if you have to convince someone to be with you, they are not your person. Mixed signals are not signals. They are answers. Insight 9.2. The ABCDE loop for relationships. Trigger: most people in chronically frustrating relationships exist in painful limbo. Too unhappy to enjoy it, too attached to leave, endlessly complaining. This limbo can last decades. Realization: the ABC loop extends to ABCDE. ABC as before, then D, deal breaker assessment. Can I accept this person exactly as they are right now, with no changes for the rest of my life? Not the person they could be, not the person they were when you met, the person they are right now, today. If no BAE end, either the complaint or the relationship. These are the only two honest options. Everything else is control. Intermediate conclusion: complaining without action is neither acceptance nor departure. It is limbo, where relationships go to die slowly. Insight 9.30. The architecture of heartbreak recovery. Trigger. Robbins identifies the patterns that prolong suffering. Checking social media, rereading messages, sleeping in unwashed sheets that still smell like them, and frames heartbreak as a neurological addiction, not just an emotion. Realization, 2 practices are essential. 30-day no contact. Every point of contact reactivates attachment circuits and resets the healing clock to 0. Environmental reset. New sheets, rearranged furniture, different scents, disrupts sensory triggers that keep the attachment alive below conscious awareness. Heartbreak is partly emotion, partly habit, partly addiction. All 3 require structural intervention to break. Intermediate conclusion. You do not heal from heartbreak by understanding it. You heal by creating physical and neurological distance. Feelings follow structure. PHA's 10, Resilience and the Integrated Self-Context. Robbins concludes with the meta-insight. The let them let me framework is a lifelong practice of building emotional resilience, the single most valuable life skill. Insight 10.1, the frame of reference technique. Trigger for the hardest cases. Inexplicable, hurtful behavior. Robbins asks readers to flip the question from, what is wrong with this person, to what happened to this person? Realization, a parent's controlling behavior stems from their own childhood chaos. A partner's emotional unavailability is a protective strategy from early abandonment. Understanding through their trauma lens enables compassion without compliance. You can understand why someone behaves destructively and still choose not to accept it. Intermediate conclusion. Understanding is not permission. Compassion and boundaries are not opposites. They are partners. Insight 10.2. Alignment creates natural immunity to opinions. Trigger. Robbins addresses the core question of the entire book. How do I actually stop caring what others think? And saves her deepest answer for the final chapter. Realization. When you align your thoughts, words, and actions with your deepest values, you become genuinely proud of yourself. And when you are proud of yourself, not performatively, but in the quiet, bone-deep way, you naturally stop caring what anyone else thinks. The fear of judgment does not disappear through force of will or emotional armor. It dissolves when you are living in authentic alignment with who you truly are. External opinions bounce off not because you are armored, but because you are whole. Intermediate conclusion. The let them list. Let me practice is ultimately a practice of self-alignment, becoming so fully yourself that the opinions of others become irrelevant, not because you dismiss them, but because you no longer need them. Papuenius, points Porsche forsti h Porsche Schlesper motion textil for. Alignment with Fexter was a lifelong strenal gesture tester resenstor worst for Sporscher, worst rest for stress for sexter rest Porsche wrestles, worst stress rest with sexter rest for stress for wrestle, stress rest with stressel, estrestrum, rest wrestle, managing prostrobessins, rest resters, breast wrestle process, restrobesses, crostrobessel, best cross rest, frostinobest, and rest, any pastorobest in the west, rest. Say it out loud, whisper, let them pime, let me L. The physical act engages the prefrontal cortex and interrupts the amygdala's stress cascade. 2. Always complete the equation. Let them without let me is passivity disguised as wisdom. Every release must be paired with an action step. 3. Audit your control addiction. Track how many times per day you try to influence someone else's behavior or opinion. The number will shock you. 4. Use the torture versus teacher filter. When jealous, ask, can I learn this? If yes, study it. If no, release it. 5. Respect the 90-second rule. Hard decisions create 90 seconds of intense discomfort. Breathe through the wave. Clarity follows. 6. Replace pressure with the ABC loop. Apologize, ask, back off, model, celebrate. People change through accepted autonomy, not applied pressure. 7. Accept seasonal friendships. Release guilt. Go first with new connections. The brave initiator breaks the stalemate for both sides. 8. Read behavior, not words. Mixed signals are clear answers. If you have to convince someone to choose you, they are not your person. 9. Support with conditions, not rescue without them. Love requires boundaries held with compassion. 10. Build alignment, not armor. You become immune to judgment, not by getting tougher, but by living in accordance with your values. 11. Use the frame of reference. Ask what happened to this person before judging. Understanding transforms resentment into compassion and makes boundaries easier to hold. 12. Remember, this is a practice. You will say, let them 1,000 times before it becomes instinctive. That is not failure. That is the practice working.